That's why I went after you that day. And it might be a tad late to apologise. Can I apologise now?
Not too bad. You feel as if you
had boots on as well.
And had boots on, yeah, okay. Well,
shin pads on underneath maybe as well.
Perhaps shin pads underneath, but that was in case Souness appeared.
Who would you want in your team, McCoist or Larsson?
Ideal.
A couple of players came out and said, men against boys.
That was Flitty.
Well, it wasn't actually, it was him.
Welcome to episode 5 of The Warm-Up. Before we get into it today, we've got a big episode for you. Please make sure you subscribe, hit that little subscribe button down below. Gordon, what have we got this week?
2 of the biggest guests you could possibly imagine. They have been giving you a real hard time before we've even come on, so I'm looking forward to this. Proper legends, I know that word gets thrown around, but Graeme Souness and Martin O'Neill, an absolute pleasure. Hope you're both well. A massive game this weekend, obviously. I wonder how you both feel about that fixture now, having lived it, breathed it, and now been slightly outside it. Do you enjoy it the same? What's it like now?
Can you go?
Well, yeah, you still enjoy it, absolutely. But I think the thing that's been missing from it are the away fans. And I think that is taken away from a fixture that is, it is global. There's no question about it. I know that word has been used quite often in the last couple of years, but I might as well use it now. But it is. It's a fantastic fixture. It's incredible, really, even for the people who wouldn't have a serious interest in the SPL otherwise. People talk about the fixture in itself, and it has definitely lost something because of the away fans. I don't know how you feel about that, but to me, it was so atmospheric. It was incredible. And when I, as Celtic manager, travelled to Ibrox, I felt, that you were going to get plenty of stick, but you actually did feel when you stepped out onto the field, when we had filled the end to the left-hand side as we looked onto the pitch, that you felt you didn't feel alone in that sense. They felt that there was something there for you. And similarly, I'm sure, with the Rangers managers going there to Celtic. So I think it's lost that. However, still a fantastic fixture.
Yeah, without a doubt. I would describe it as the biggest derby I've ever been involved in. I played in Merseyside derbies when I managed Galatasaray. That's an enormous one with Fenerbahce. Nearly as hostile as the Celtic Rangers one, but without a shadow of a doubt, the home supporters react to the away supporters. So there's something lost with no away supporters being there. But it was they're fantastic games. The world watches that game. And it is diminished by not having away supporters. But you're looking forward to this weekend maybe a bit more than I am. But, Celtic...
As it has been for quite a number of years now.
Listen, I thought you'd get that, and I thought you'd give me 5 minutes before you started on me. But, Celtic obviously start as favourites, but we both know football is a strange game. Names on team sheets don't win you football matches. And in that game in particular, anything can happen. A sending off, bad refereeing decision, someone producing a bit of magic. But I watched 2 Old Firm games last year. I know the Celtic have been the dominant team in Scotland for a while now. But I didn't see a lot between the 2 teams in the two Old Firm games I saw last year. So I'll be sitting with everything crossed.
Well, there might not be a great deal, and that's true. In a particular game, there might not be a great deal between the teams. But I just have felt, and I've felt this now for a number of years, that a Rangers side, I don't think is that strong. In fact, I think it's for Rangers standards, I think it's quite poor. But you wouldn't guarantee Rangers going away from home and winning matches. So you can actually do all right against Celtic on the day. You can still end up losing the match, and the game can be close. But you do feel at this minute in the last number of years that Rangers are not capable of going away from home and be guaranteed winning the game. I think the biggest thing was that the Ross County game last season is a prime example. They take the lead in the game. They've had all the advantages going for. It's in their hands, and they go and you just don't see it. You don't see it coming through, and I don't think that that's a major shock to Rangers fans. That's the point, and primarily because the team is not strong enough.
See, but again, I come back to we know how unpredictable football can be. The same applied to my other team, Liverpool, last year. They got themselves into a situation where they just had to win the next 10 games and win the league, and they didn't do it for whatever reason. When the big players should be turning up and putting a foot to the floor and having them all piling behind, they didn't do it. So there was obviously mental weakness there on them. But for Rangers, when you look at Rangers right now, even this week, the boy Riley going to Brighton for 25 million with add-ons. That gap is enormous in terms of where Celtic are financially and where Rangers are. And, on paper, Celtic do have better players. They certainly have better strikers at this moment in time. But I come back to, I'm sure you agree, Martin, we've played in games of football where you've been an outstanding favourite, but you've come unstuck. That is football.
Yeah, all it takes is one result, I suppose, isn't it, for it to all change. But what are some of your favourite memories then from the derbies down the years? I'm sure we'll get on to this week's derby as well a little bit later on, talk about the squads a little bit more. But for you guys, what are some of the games that stand out from your careers?
Well, naturally, you're talking about the Old Firm games. Yeah, my first Old Firm game was just really dramatic. We had I came up here that season. This Rangers were really strong side. And if I'd realised how strong they were, I might just have stayed at Leicester. But I came up because it's what I wanted to do. And we opened, and I never forget, their first game was at Dundee United, Tannadice. And it was in those days of Sky TV. So ours was a Rangers that kicked off on the Saturday and won at Ibrox. So our game was on the Sunday at around about 6 o'clock time. And I was asked a question by a journalist, and he said, if you with Rangers winning yesterday, if you don't win today, is that the league over? And we hadn't even kicked off.
Was that a third or fourth game of the season?
It was the first game.
Oh, the first game.
That's a welcome to Glasgow, isn't it?
So, that true, honestly, and I think I went back into the dressing room and vomited. I thought, ooh, this is going to be, because Rangers had won the league by about 20 odd points the previous year. But we got a bit of momentum going. So by the time, I think Rangers might have been our fifth or sixth game. So by the time we had won our matches, but this was really big for us. And I couldn't have dreamt of a better start. We're 3-0 up in 11 minutes. And honestly, I looked across to John Clark, little John, who was a member of the 1967 side. He was my kit man. I looked across him and I said, is the game nearly over? It's one of those where you've got a dream start, 3-0 up, but Rangers were a really good side. But that gave us momentum. And in actual fact, even though Rangers beat us in November time at Ibrox and hammered us, we had a lot of confidence, or more confidence about ourselves. Had the first fixture been at Rangers, who knows? But it was a great, and I think it was a seminal moment for the team. I didn't see it at that time, but it was a seminal moment for the season, and perhaps maybe for the turning point for Celtic's fortune.
See, when you've seen it all in the fixture, Graeme, is it easy do you have one memory that stands out? Does it all sort of merge into one, or when you're asked about, does something jump straight out at you as being something that you cling on to?
You're talking about the Old Firm?
Yeah.
I think maybe a negative one. I mean, we did well in the games against Celtic. We were the dominant team in my time up here. We had some fabulous players, a fabulous team. I can remember getting sent off at Parkhead.
What a surprise!
Of course, it wasn't deserved, but still
wasn't deserved. Those sentences do not go together. Soon as being sent off undeservedly, I was
only a fraction late and getting there, but no, I think they are. Do
you know who was it?
I can't remember.
No.
I can't. Anyway,
right from his memory.
No, I am
a mental aberration.
When I came here, I was still playing, still trying to play, which is super difficult. When you're a manager and you're managing Celtic, it must be the exact same. It's full on. You never know what you're walking into when you walk through the door. But I was still trying to play, and I found playing in those games really difficult. I played in big games before I arrived here, but I found those Old Firm games. Maybe it's because
you were just getting a bit older.
But they were super quick, super aggressive, and they were very hard to play in. But I just love playing in big football matches. I've always done that. The bigger the game, the more it turned me on, the better I felt I was. But they are monster games to play in, enormous pressure to play in. And I said I was fortunate it went well for me when I was here. But the pressure on managers in those games is enormous. I mean, I can remember, I don't know if I met you somewhere or I phoned you up and I said, because I was a wee bit further down the road than you, having been at Rangers and then moved on. Do you remember I said to you, you should not wear a tracksuit on the side of the pitch.
You did. You absolutely did. You did. He said because. What was your reasoning?
I was like, I felt wearing a suit calmed me down.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You know, you get so involved and so emotional. Yeah. You're jumping up and down and confronting fourth officials and anyone else that comes.
Graeme did it. Yeah,
and I said, try wearing a suit, see if it puts you, because we were both the same. You don't get too involved, too carried away.
And I suppose the Rangers managers have to wear a suit, don't they, on the match day? But is it a rule at Celtic?
No, it's definitely not a rule. I don't know whether it's changed in my time, but I did.
He didn't listen to me.
No, it's in the tracksuit.
Well, I didn't listen to Graeme in the sense that it wasn't because Graeme had given it to him, and I'm going to refuse his advice.
It's fashion advice.
Far from it. But I kind of felt at that stage in my career I'm more involved in the game, believe it or not. You know, you feel as if you
had boots on as well.
And had boots on, yeah, okay.
Shin pads on underneath maybe as well.
Perhaps shin pads underneath, but that was in case Souness appeared. But no, in terms of Graeme's team, and this is, I will praise him for this. There was, generally speaking, what he did, he changed the trend of things. He brought serious footballers from England up to Scotland, serious players, you know, and that was unusual at the time, and it was a massive change, no question.
Yeah, I suppose actually, you know, in different ways and at different times, you both came in and kick-started a kind of revolution at a different time for the club. What's that like when you walk into that size of a challenge? How do you go about building that?
Well, it was my first job. How many jobs did you have prior to taking the Celtic on?
I'd had Wycombe Wanderers and Leicester City. I was really enjoying it.
How old were you?
Right. Okay. What age was I? I was about. I must have been about 40, 47, 48 or something like that.
You're an old bastard then, weren't you?
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
See,
yeah. Just let me work this out.
Too old for a tracksuit. Let me work this out. To say.
Yeah. I would have been. Yeah, been about 4.
I mean, I look back now.
2000, 47, 48. Yeah.
I made some mad decisions. You know, confronted, because when you're young, you feel you can take anything on. But I got the job as manager of Rangers at 33.
Is that right?
And I used to chuckle at when we talked about Pochettino, the young Spurs manager, and he was about 45, and I'm thinking, you know, I at that time that never registered. It's only registered afterwards. You know, you walk in at 33.
Although I had been managing for years before at Wycombe Wanderers.
Yeah, I know, but that was my first job.
Oh, that was.
You know, and I'm thinking when I get the Rangers job, you know, I've been a big player, played for big clubs, played for my country, captained my country. You know, how different can it be? There was nothing I had done to prepare me for the Rangers job. Okay, playing, it's the same game of football, but in terms of managing, it was you know, I had some really good people with me. I had a great chairman, David Holmes, first time round. Latterly, David Murray, but
did Walter come in and help?
Yeah, no, Walter was there. Walter was with the Scottish squad prior to the World Cup in '86. So I knew Walter. He was in and around the Scottish scene with first Jockstein, then latterly with Fergie. So I knew Walter and got on well with Walter. And David Holmes suggested that you know, you need someone who knows about Scottish football. Mm-hmm. So we were sort of thrown together, and we got on well from day one. Yeah. And he was an enormous help, without a shadow of a doubt. I mean, I was sort of just knocking doors down and barging through, you know, and he was holding me back. But he was an enormous help.
Here's an interesting thing. Well, the fact is that you were still able to play at that time, you know, might not to the ability that you had before, or in terms of slowing down a little bit. But if you had just, let's say, had picked up an injury and were unable to play, would you have taken this job just as a manager on its own at that time?
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
That's
but I'll come back to it. When you were young, I mean, I was fearless when I was young. You know,
and fearful. You
know,
not fearful. No, that's the wrong word. Use of the word. He was a dirty bastard. You know. Really, really good player. Really good player.
Thank you very much.
Very good player. Brilliant. Honestly, one of the best. One of the.
Were you ever on the receiving end?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, I was sensing that coming through.
Well, interestingly enough, yes, absolutely, because he took some reason for disliking me, and strangely enough, it's true. I am actually quite dislikable, believe it or not. I am, and I found that out in my own household. But what I'm saying, we actually had matches against each other when I was with Nottingham Forest, and we actually for a couple of years, despite the fact that Liverpool were the best side in the country, if not in European football, we had the Indian sign on them. We actually beat them. We couldn't beat you. They could with some big matches, but we also had a couple of lads as well too who could look after them. Ian Boyer. No, I couldn't tackle a fish supper at the end of the day. I had a Gaelic background, and I was, I don't get me wrong, I wasn't a card, but I wasn't Kenny Burns fearless, in that sense. But I tackled like a Gaelic man, so grabbing people like that there. So I couldn't slide in on people. Graeme could do that, but at the end of the day, so we had a fellow called Boyer who actually
noised everyone up as well.
We did.
Scouser, wasn't he?
He was a Manchester lad. He was brave as a lion, so he could deal with Souness and the lads in that sense. So fast forward a couple of years, then I'm playing for Notts County, and we're at Anfield, and Souness after about 12 minutes, he's come from nowhere. I didn't even see him. Done me, absolutely done me. So I'm playing for Notts County, so listen, I'm at the end of my career in that sense, and you think you feel sorry for me.
Two sides to this story, by the way.
No, hold on.
No, we'll get yours after. Yeah.
This is interesting because, and honestly, it's like yesterday to me. And so anyway, so I'm looking around for players who would maybe look after me in that sense. I don't feel Boyer's not there because it's not the time. Larry Lloyd's not there. Kenny Burns is not there. Any of these boys are not there. So I thought I'd just have to take my punishment. Anyway, I was wheeled into the dressing room to get stitched up, and I seemed to be there for an ages. That it was the Liverpool doctor come down. I think I had a couple of drinks at the time.
Yeah, he was always full of it.
It was honestly, and so he said to me, "Which leg is it?" I said, "The one that's bleeding down there." And I said, "That one." "Oh, is that right?" So it looks as if he's taking ages to stitch it up, and about 6 stitches or something, I guess here. And anyway, down comes Jimmy Cyril, who Jimmy Cyril was. Partly, Jimmy had been the manager of Notts County for times. He had let the reins over to Larry Lloyd, but he was still hovering around. He came down, son, we Scotsman. He said, "We need you back up there again." I said, and it was 0-0 at the time. And I said, "What's the score?" He said, 4-0. I said, "They scored 4." I said, I don't think I'll bother. Anyway, so I go and get changed, and so I came out and I'm trying to brave up, and the two dressing rooms at Anfield just converge in that sense as they're coming out. So Souness is coming out the door, and I said, "Yeah, dirty blue, blah, blah, blah." And he just said...
Did you say dirty blue something?
No, I didn't say that. No, I did not say that. I absolutely did not. I said something, and he said, "All right," he said, "people in glass houses," as if to say I'm running around doing people. And I thought, well, he must be kidding. So he kind of sort of spat down there disparagingly for a while, and I thought, yeah, he's right. Okay, so anyway, that was it. But we've honestly, so really good player, dirty bastard, wouldn't survive now and today. No, actually would do because he would learn. But honestly, terrific footballer, terrific player.
Can I give my version?
Go on, go for it. Yeah.
In this game, I'd never had a problem with him. He would stand up and fight his corner. He's right about Kenny Burns would fight a lion. Larry Lloyd was a big old lump. Larry Lloyd. And Boyer used to go around noising people out. I remember Boyer saying to Terry Mack, it was a game towards the end of the season, 2 or 3 games, may have been the last game, and we were going to play a European Cup final, and he'd say to Terry Mack, "Do you want to fucking play in that final next week or 2 weeks' time?"
Did he?
Terry Mack said, he just said to me. So then, but he was cute as well as being able to look after some boy. I can't ever remember properly catching him.
No.
But in this game, that you're playing, and you've had this is how I remember it. You had a dip at Kenny, and Kenny's fucking looked at you. You had a dip at Rushy, and Rushy's gone to me because Rushy, would look for help on occasion. And anyway, that was why I went after you that day. And it might be a tad late to apologise. Can I apologise now?
Not too bad. Not seriously. Not accepting it here today. Yeah, absolutely. It's no problem. It's a game.
Every team had players like that who could wanted or could cross the line and it was allowed.
Yeah.
The referees will let you get on with it.
And not seriously, and it's also, I think it's really interesting as well when you talk to ex-Liverpool players of his football team and how big he was in the dressing. That's the final words I'm going to say about you. Okay, so
that's
done.
Nice.
But a really, really, really quality footballer, no question about it. One of the best.
I just get really nervous every time we're supposed to put these two on the spot about something. We've got 5 quick fire questions for you.
Hold on, before we're going for that, who's putting a name to these questions? Are these your questions?
No, I'm playing someone else.
So you're disowning these questions. So if they're stupid questions, it's not down to you.
I blame us. We're the ones who are there to take them.
So they're kind of quick fire. They are a bit different. Okay. Well, let's call them different. You call them a name. I'll go different. We'll see how we get on. You have a legal background, Martin. Which of your former players would star in your first crime novel if you were to write one?
If I was the first to write?
If you were to write a crime novel, any of your former players you think would be
in it?
Yeah. They can be the good guys or the bad guys.
Oh,
That's up to you.
I'll give that to Sutton.
Good guy, bad guy.
Oh, bad guy. Yeah, absolutely.
That was a quick answer as well. Yeah, it was quick.
I feel there's more to that. Yeah. Best Old Firm goal you've ever seen?
Best Old Firm goal I've ever seen. Maybe Henrik's goal in the 6-2 game. Sutton flicks it on to him and he chips. Yeah, okay. Brilliant.
Would Graeme Souness get in your treble-winning side?
Graeme Souness getting the treble-winning side.
I mean, not now, but
in fairness, I shouldn't really say this, but Souness would get in just about everybody's World 11.
Fair enough. A derby win at home.
Thank you very much for that.
You got to say that. It's not right next to you.
Derby
that's
win.
The last time. Personally, I don't actually like him, but it doesn't really matter. But I'm talking about his ability as a player.
A derby win at home or away? Would you prefer?
A derby win at home or away?
Yeah. So Celtic Park
or
Ibrox.
That's a very good question. I must admit, winning at Ibrox is fantastic.
Yeah, okay, I can see that. And the biggest name in your phone book?
Biggest name in my phone book?
The biggest celeb. Who's the biggest? That's going to be Graeme again, isn't it?
Yeah.
Graeme going to be 2 of his answers?
A biggest name? I seriously, I'm genuinely, and this is, I'll be serious for a second, I'm not wildly into that. So only
you
because
told us
nobody does
before we came on, you did tell us you played golf with Rory McIlroy.
But playing golf with Rory McIlroy and having Rory McIlroy's number is a totally different thing.
I think that's even better.
And I don't even check. I don't mean it. I'm not honestly. I'm not in any coterie of little friends, or I've never been one of those. I don't know whether Graeme was the same as me, but I was never into a coterie of managers. Never phoned a manager up. Why would you? Because
this is the new president of the LMA in England, by the way. You will be now.
I am. Which I'm trying to find out what that means as such. A League Managers Association chairman of the. It's
not president. Just the chairman.
It's just the chairman.
Oh, just the chairman.
Just the chairman. Right. And anyway, so sorry, what was the question?
Biggest
again?
name in the phone book it was. There's got to be
biggest name. Do you know what I'll do? I know I'll be wildly sycophantic and say him.
Fine. Okay. Don't mind us.
I like that. So Graeme, for you then as well, we got 5 quick fire questions. So would you rather have a morning coffee with Jim White or lunch with Simon Jordan?
Oh, neither.
Yeah. Fair enough. Move on to the next one. Old Firm win as a manager or a player? What do you prefer?
See, when you're a player, and that's easily the best job, I'm sure you would agree. You just feel you just look after yourself, and if you're having a good day, you try and help your teammates. As a manager, you feel so responsible. So winning an Old Firm as a manager.
Okay. Same question that Martin had. Best Old Firm goal you've ever seen?
Well, I'm going to talk about when I was involved, and it'd be Ray Wilkins' volley at the Celtic end.
Yeah, nice. Who would you want in your team, McCoist or Larsson?
Bloody hell. Well, I've already said I think Larsson was world class.
Yeah.
I guess in any team.
Yeah.
When he was at Celtic Park, so I'd have to go with
Henrik Larsson. And same question again. Biggest name in your phone book?
Biggest name. Honestly, I don't court.
This is the problem. We didn't see this coming. We've now got 2 guests that they are the biggest name in their own people's phone books.
Yeah.
No, it's not true.
You're our first European Cup winners as well on the show. So you're
the baddest.
Anyone? Yeah.
Would Sir Alex Ferguson's number?
Of course.
We talk about. Like he'd been a great player and actually a very, 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 very good manager. But Alex Ferguson's record has been up there.
Sure.
Yeah. So I'll honestly, if Graeme gets second booking behind that there, then
and look at that. I think we've finished on a note where they've
you
agreed on
us
something.
to be falling out all the time.
No, that's what I mean. You've agreed on something at the end, and
I think because something I've always felt that one of the best people I've worked in punditry with is Neil Lennon.
Is that right?
Yeah,
Okay.
without a shadow of it. And let me tell you, we were two peas at the same pod, and I think this is how it's transpired for him. He's learned his trade of him. He learned most of his trade of Brian Clough. Brian Clough and Bob Paisley, they would have been two peas at the same pod. So their views have been transmitted through generations, and that's why I felt working with Neil Lennon was as good as it got for me in punditry. And I think we both see football the same. So we're not going to fall out over much.
Certainly not over who's the biggest name in the phone book. Honestly, I can't believe that's the note that will. But
Would
honestly,
you agree with that?
I absolutely. You're talking about Neil Lennon, which I've mentioned before, and I think you're right. He's a smart guy, an intelligent fellow, and all this here, not the best looking fellow in the world, but at the end of the day, brilliant. Great
well,
for me.
maybe a future guest for us. See then when you take all that competitive spirit and that edge and you are in the dugout and you mentioned about kind of learning and reining things in, what's the preparation like as a manager for an Old Firm game? Is it different? Do you need to tailor it, or how does it work?
That's a very good question, and honestly, sometimes memory plays tricks with you, and you think that you did something that you actually probably didn't do at all. But I know that for the first game, where I was really concerned about it, and then so weeks preparation. I don't mean preparation for us. I mean talking about this. I'm talking about the newspapers. I'm talking about the media every single day, and it's a build up to the whole thing. And I remember speaking to Walter Smith way back some years, and Walter's paths and I didn't cross at all. Walter was obviously with Graeme at the time, and he said that at the end of the games, even if you got a result, you felt relief more than anything else particularly if you won the game, rather than unbelievable euphoria. I'm not so sure that I felt that in the first game. I was obviously delighted to have won the game, but in terms of the build-up, it is an impossibility for you not to know that the Rangers game is absolutely an impossibility. You feel that even the players have a different attitude to the training. They're more tuned in. They're everything.
I suppose there's nowhere like Glasgow, right? The Goldfish Bowl nature of it. There's nowhere that you've played.
The players
that
are
could be
aware.
like that.
You're aware of how important it is to your supporters. It spoils certainly the following week, if not until the next Old Firm game. I mean, you are very much aware how important it is. I made the schoolboy error. My first press conference of saying, I don't care if we lose 4 times to Celtic as long as we win the league. I was going to take a breath from certain journalists, because that was the way we were educated.
That's absolutely right. I'm not sure that I said this in the public gallery, but I think I said it in a sort of a thing where Celtic supporters here, they weren't having that.
Because that makes sense unless you're here, though.
Unless you're here. Games and lose the league.
Nearly would do. Absolutely. And I thought to myself, that's crazy. And I never said it again.
Just shows how unique the derby is, I suppose.
It is. It's such a special game of football.
You've been fiery players then, as you mentioned. See, when you're managing them, I don't know whether it's Neil Lennon or players then that you did you have to? Did you feel you had to rein them in? What point can you let these fiery guys go?
When all my education really about football was from Liverpool, and how they, when we played in the bigger games or cup finals, they tried to keep everything to a minimum. Like if we were playing a cup final at Wembley, teams where it was a new experience for them, they would go down on a Tuesday or a Wednesday and make a whole,
and then it seems different.
Sleeping in different beds, eating different food, different pillows, out of the routine. And we'd go down on a Friday to a hotel somewhere in North London in preparation for the final on the Saturday. So now they kept it to the same. And I would try and do that for Old Firm games. But the players know. The players fill their cars up with petrol. They go to the school. They might go to their shops. The street they live in. They know. They get the vibe that this is a special occasion. And I brought a lot of English players up here, and you would have had English guys as well, and foreigners, and they quickly get it.
Yeah,
they feed off that. And I had some. I'm a great believer in. You've got no chance of being successful as a manager unless you've got good senior pros. I had no job to do after I got the likes of Terry Butcher and Ray Wilkins, Mark Cately, Richard Goff. There was no job for me. I didn't have to come down at half-time and point a finger at anyone and saying, how about a bit more? By the time I got from the director's box down to the dressing room, it was all sorted. And that's how it was in my dressing room at Liverpool. I like to think, certainly in the early days, that's what it was like. And I like to think, as I went through the system, I was that senior player that, Kenny and I would square up on, and throw punches at each other. That happened a couple of times.
And do you think
we used to room together?
And do you think now that Rangers are kind of lacking a little bit of that fight in the squad compared to Celtic?
I just think because financially have not been able to buy the kind of players that should be playing for Rangers, and that's a financial thing. Whereas Celtic, by qualifying for the Champions League on a regular basis, getting that money, having been cute in the transfer market with some players. There's another example of Riley going this week. They've got a lot of money in the bank where Rangers don't have. And Rangers are buying, Celtic are in a position now where they can buy players for 2 years' time. Rangers are buying players under pressure that have to perform next Saturday. And that's a very difficult job description. Go out and find me the next gem, next one I can spend. Next Riley, did they spend $1 million on him?
Yeah, $1.5 million. League One.
Yeah. That's the beauty of being. I always felt, see if you agree with this, I always felt as a Rangers manager, you could be sitting second in the league. You lost the first Old Firm game. You're playing the best football, but you lost that Old Firm game. So you're sticking in the league. All the pressure is on you. All the spotlight is on you. All the criticism is on you. Like you said, after losing one game, is that the league over then? After your first game. So I just felt you have to be number one and you sailing off into the sunset with no pressure on you. And all the pressure is on that number 2 team. And you could be the best team. And that impacts on some players. They find it hard to play under that kind of scrutiny and pressure.
Suppose man management then, on occasions like that, becomes so important. You've
big
mentioned
players
some of
drag you through it.
Yeah, you've mentioned some of the big names and the big characters and fighting spirit guys like John Brown. How'd you handle him on big match days?
Well, Bomber, I say this, he was unique. I mean, you never had to speak to him. Didn't have to, tell me to train properly. I mean, I signed John Brown because when I was still playing my first year, we played at Dundee. I remember it was a night game, and there's a guy, trying to go through me every time I get the ball. I'm thinking, who the fuck is this? And I come in at half time and I say to Walter, I think he might have number 6. And I said, who's number 6? Every time I get the ball, he's trying to fucking, he's up for it. Oh, I should have told you about him. That's Bomber, John Brown. He's a big blue nose. I went, oh. So I got up for the second half and he's trying to do the same. And I have caught him a couple of times and it had no impact on whatsoever. He just got up and went, Phew.
He must have been a hard man.
And he was right up for it. So at the end of the game, on the way back down to Glasgow, I said, I think we should sign him, Walter. He said, no, we can't. He's got a dodgy knee. I said, I don't give a fuck. He's up for it. He'd be a great asset in the dressing room. Anyway, we signed him, and the rest is history. What an individual he was. And I have to say this: he used to get so fired up for games. He used to blow up. He'd do an hour, and he was like having to come off. And anyway, we worked out that he was so excited prior to games. He was over what would you call it? Hyperventilating.
Yeah.
And he used to sit in the dressing room before games with a brown paper bag, breathing into a brown paper bag, so all the carbon dioxide wasn't leaving his system. And that solved his problem. He was so fired up for. I don't know if he was like that playing for Dundee, but when he came to Rangers, it was as if he had come to his spiritual home. Yeah. He was born a Rangers supporter.
I wonder if the sports scientists of today would have.
I'm not sure they do
that.
But what goes on in his head is quite unique to most footballers.
Not sure he's brown paper bag at all.
Better not make any accusations. Martin, who were the big? I don't know if it's similar or just those kind of big characters that you perhaps relied on in these games.
I think, as Graeme said, that sometimes that the big characters do all the work for you. When I came, first of all, the only thing that, because they had been so far behind, there was definitely a lack of confidence within the team. So it was a matter of trying to get the confidence going a little bit, and number 1, and 2, trying to get some players in. So we lost Viduka at the time, and he was a big player. I wanted him to stay at the football club, but he had fallen out with just about everyone, I think, at the time. So he went to Leeds United. I turned the money over for Chris Sutton. And Sutton became a big player. Don't tell him that, but he became a really big player for us. And he had started off a really good partnership with Henrik Larsson. Larsson was just coming back. Larsson was a fantastic footballer.
He was
fantastic footballer.
How
Absolutely.
many times was he the difference for you?
Oh,
I'm
just,
thinking
just,
about
just every
that
week.
night at Parkhead with Blackburn when we came.
Absolutely. We'll definitely. I must get my own back in soon
Must
and
get
tell
back
you
to
about
that
that one, but in a second or two. So, but no, Larsson was big. But I signed some really good players. Signed Sutton to begin with, replacement for Viduka. Sutton did great. Alan Thompson came in, Didier Agat came in as well too, but and Lennon, I signed Lennon around about the Christmas time of that same year. Lennon was a big player for it, big player, really good, like him, like a Roy Keane of the side. And where I thought that Lennon was fantastic was that not only he was in the dressing room, he's yapping all the time. But before the game, halfway through, we could be leading 3-0 in the game, and he still found something to chirp at, And but I enjoyed it because it kept people going. And where I thought it was big, he could be playing not so well in the game, but still have an influence in the side, in the sense that he'd still be chirping at other people. And no one had ever said to him, listen, you're not doing so well here today, And I did say it to him once at half time. I said, hold on, because he was having a go at a few. I said, you're not doing too well. And then he said, oh, well then, okay, then I'll stop talking then. Well, I didn't want that either. So I had to come back round again and say to him, no, I want you to keep going. He was a big player for us. But I had lots of them. Paul Lambert had won the Champions League with Dortmund. Really good player. But Larsson was a major player in the side. And this is a joke. I said that when John Robertson, I said to John one day, I said, John, Henrik hasn't scored yet. He said, we haven't kicked off yet. But so that was that was the sort of influence that Larsson had in the side, with a lot of good players, a lot of strong characters that just lost a little bit of belief. But that was all.
See, you talk about big players. Going back to when you were playing at Nottingham Forest. Because of the personality of your manager, who was a big personality, dominant personality. Did you have that in that dressing room? You must have done to be successful.
We did. Maybe not to the same extent as you boys were running it. And I know you say that, and I think it's a really great story of you signing from Middlesbrough to go to Liverpool. And asking Ronnie Moran.
No, it was Joe Fagan.
Was it Joe Fagan?
My story. Can I tell it?
You tell it as your story. I forgot it was his story.
So I was a record transfer fee between two English clubs. Kenny had come down from Glasgow. Record transfer fee between two British clubs. I'd gone from Middlesbrough to Liverpool. Record transfer fee. Joe Jordan had gone for 350,000, and the rivalry still existed. So Liverpool put £2,000 on my transfer fee, and you make it 352, so they could claim it was the biggest English transfer. So I trained at Liverpool for a week. Basically, walk around the training ground Melwood, jog around a few stretches, 6-a-side for 40 minutes, finish sprints home. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday off, Thursday the same, Friday we travelled down to West Brom. First game is West Brom away from home. 2:45, I'm sitting in the dressing room, and there's Toshak there, Emlyn Hughes, Callahan, Ray Clements, Tommy Smith, all the players who were just about to leave the club. So 2:45, I plucked up courage and I said to Joe Fagan, did you ever meet Joe?
I did.
Absolute genius. We talk about, I look back on my education, I think I went to the equivalent of Oxford and Cambridge.
Absolutely. No question.
Bob Paisley, Joe Fagan, Ronnie Moran.
No question.
So I said to Joe, Joe, can I have a word? He said, yes, son. And he spoke with a quiet voice. A really good man. And he said, what is it, son? I said, yeah. I said, look, Joe, I've been here a week and no one said anything to me. How does he want me to play? And this response was, fuck off. We've spent all this money on you and you're asking me how to play football, and turned and walked away. I never asked another question.
That is
and
genius.
Never asked a question.
Right.
Can you imagine saying that to modern players?
I was going to say, they want instruction constantly.
HR, and you need to lie down for half an hour.
Speaking of which, I'm keen to get your thoughts specifically on this weekend, but we can't let that opportunity pass by. Henrik Larsson, Blackburn. Let's do it. Then we'll talk about this weekend.
What happened is that we played. We were drawn against Blackburn Rovers, and Blackburn under him were going great. We're going great in the league for Blackburn Rovers. I know they'd won the league before that there, but times
we'd won the League Cup as well. That's why we're in the competition.
Absolutely. And I think you played Arsenal at Highbury just before, and I went down definitely to watch Blackburn play, and honestly, they were a really decent side, no question about it. And the first game was at Parkhead, and actually they played really well. We actually won the game in the last minute, which people forget about it, but they played really well. They really well in the game. We were second best for the whole game. But what came out in the dressing room was a couple of players came out and said, it said men against boys.
That was Flitty.
Well, it wasn't actually, it was him.
And Flitty, attributed to me.
No, it was attributed to, because I know that Flitty wouldn't be able to say, Flitty being Flitcroft wouldn't have said it. He would have said it in the dressing. Now I can imagine exactly it's coming. And we thought, listen, we don't have, you're talking about a team talk. It was the first time ever that Souness has actually done our team talk. So we thought we'll be ready. We'll try and be ready for the game. It's still a big night for us. But I must admit, travelling down that evening, it was pitch dark, and there's a pub about 300 or 400 yards from Ewood Park to the left-hand side as the bus drives in. And it was full of Celtic fans coming out and giving it the old thing. And I thought, oh, listen, we're not there on our own. Then what happened is that I had a peep out beforehand, 45 minutes before, when the players are going out doing their warm-up, and the end was absolutely full. So Blackburn had given us the complete end. So we had about 7,000 people in there that night. And honestly, and you talk about the players being up for the game.
You scored early, didn't you?
And honestly, we were terrific that night.
I can remember that goal at Parkhead. It was the Celtic end. If you were coming out of the tunnel, it was a corner kick on the furthest away.
Yeah.
And it went and flicked on. And like, how does that end up in the back of the net? And there's one guy running away with his hand. Laudrup was, I tell you how good Laudrup was at that time, I felt. My definition of world class is someone.
Laudrup?
Sorry, not Laudrup.
Larsson.
Yes. My definition of Larsson at that time was, or my definition of a world class player is, you can go anywhere and get in anyone's team. Yeah. And I think he could have done it. I think anyone would have welcomed him.
And he signed from
that time.
Celtic to Barcelona.
You
afterwards,
consider that he went to Barcelona, and I know that he had a lot of players that are really good players in front of him. The
Eto'o was there at the time.
Absolutely.
Henri, I think, at the same time.
And
would have
the
been there.
Brazilian lad, the
Ronaldinho.
Yeah. Sorry, did you say Ronaldinho?
There was so many, wasn't there?
I remember, and he came on in the final. I know that Arsenal were down to 10 men, but he changed the course of the game but Barcelona were going nowhere at the time. So he changed the course of that there. Then I think at 34 years of age, 34, he goes to Man United and scores goal. Yeah. And the great Sir Alex Ferguson wants him for another year. Yeah. So that I think Graeme is absolutely right. It tells you everything about it.
See, all that kind of managerial experience now, when you look at the two men who've got big decisions this week, and they are in very different situations now, because Celtic are the dominant side and under Brendan Rodgers. Then for Phillipe Clement, how important, Graeme, to try dig something out in this fixture, all these things we hear about, laying down a marker or whatever it may be. What do you make of him, the job he's doing, and what he's got to face this week?
I think he's done a very good job. I think he's he's working with the players he's got. I'm sure, like every manager, Brendan the same. You always want more and more players and better players. And right now for Phillipe Clement, they don't have the budget to give him that. And I think he's working with it. He's getting the most out of them. And I think he's done very well. But obviously it's at Parkhead, which makes obviously Celtic favourites. At this time, Celtic would be favourites, maybe playing it even at Ibrox. But I come back to that. It doesn't mean they're going to win the game of football. I think Phillipe Clement has done a great job. But he knows, I'll finish this. He knows what he has to do. He knows he has to start winning Old Firm games. How quickly did you get being a Celtic manager? You grew up as a Celtic supporter, I presume?
Yeah,
Northern Ireland, can I say that? I think, are you from Belfast?
No, I'm not from Belfast.
But I think Northern Ireland be more akin to, maybe all of Northern Ireland, the towns in Northern Ireland, more akin to Glasgow than I would say Edinburgh was that I grew up in.
That's probably true. Yeah.
Because you're aware of that rivalry far more. Yeah. The unfortunate and very unattractive part of that rivalry, when it exists more in every town. And tell me if I'm wrong.
No,
in Northern Ireland than it would in Edinburgh when I was growing up. Yeah. So you got it right away coming to Celtic. You know what you're walking into.
You think that you know what you're walking into, really, because we had, I'd grown up as you do. I mean, I'm a Catholic, a nationalist, and that. So in Ireland, Northern Ireland, I'm going to support Celtic. you always had an English team as you were growing up. My English team actually was Sunderland, but that was primarily because they had a big Irish centre half.
Where did you pull that one from?
But it was my favourite team.
Joe Hurley.
Charlie Hurley. And I was at a boarding school for 5 years, so talking about his prefabs and stuff like this. Yeah, I went to a boarding school.
We're sitting with a posh boy.
Essentially.
I didn't know that.
Essentially, yeah, absolutely. I went to school that day they did spelling.
You got it right away.
I got it, absolutely.
I didn't get it on day one.
Did you?
I suppose though, Brendan Rodgers is now, he's experienced it before, so that's where it's maybe a bit different. And he, Martin, what's he facing currently? Because if it was just about what was happening on the pitch, then life is rosy and Celtic are winning everything and have started the season really well. Right now though, the transfer window's open and everyone's looking to say, okay, how does Matt O'Reilly get replaced and what does that look like? What's he going through just now? What do you think that challenge looks like?
Well, I think that the transfer window, especially as it's closing down now, and you think you've just lost a very influential player to your
he's
side.
A good player, by the way.
He is, honestly, he's turned out a really good player, no question about it. But naturally, as a manager, he'll be disappointed that he's lost a player because you want to keep them, And the powers that be have made the decision that they think this is a really good deal for the football club financially. It probably is. But are you saying there's two things in his head? First of all, there's the transfer deadline coming up, and two, the big game, the big match. Now, as Graeme said, anything can actually happen in the game, so he'll be trying to focus on the match, but he's lost an influential midfield player. Will they be trying to get a replacement? I'm sure they will be. They want to. Because
with the replacement, will they spend them?
Looking
at it, they ain't going to spend the 25 million.
Not at all. No, that's
They'll be looking for the next player they can spend small money on, and in 3 years' time sell him for 25 million.
Yeah, that's true. But also he'll have an eye now in the Champions League. They did it last season. Actually, probably their best half was against Atletico Madrid. In the first half of that game, I was there. But this is where I think. This is where Celtic and Rangers, because of the history of the football clubs, Celtic won the first British team to win the European Cup way back in 1967. That's what all Celtic sides should aspire to.
And Rangers were the first British team to be in a European final as well. I think that was 61 Cup Winners' Cup, so they both have
absolutely
amazing history as well.
The history. Now that seems a long way away at this minute, because of the finances that we're talking about. But getting back to what Brendan thinks, so he's got a twofold thing in his head in the next couple of days. Can he get the replacement in, a decent replacement in? And can he be thinking about the Champions League draw, which is, and also he'd be thinking about the game that they're going into as strong favourites to win this game at home, but might not do.
But Riley's doesn't get transferred on the Wednesday, and Brendan finds out on the Tuesday the day before. So that thing would have been.
They've known about this transfer for a long time.
Yeah, so that would give Brendan a chance to have a look at what's out there, a replacement. But I don't see Celtic. Celtic are sitting with a few quid in the bank as well. I don't see Celtic going out and spending the 25 million that they got for Riley. I think they'll be looking to.
No, that'd
be a smart buy.
Yeah.
And Brendan wouldn't be happy with that. Me as a manager, I'd be saying, look, we can't sit on the laurels. Yeah, we've won the last, 13 games Rangers have won one game?
Yeah,
Phillipe Clement hasn't won one yet, and there was 4 in the league and 1 in the cup last year.
You've got to assume, as a manager that, you're going to slip up, you get injuries. So you're always wanting more and better players. So I would imagine, I'm not trying to be cute and clever and create a problem that may not exist. I know if I'm Brendan sitting there, I've just sold one of my best players for 25 million. I'm looking for that money. I'm wanting to go and buy someone for that kind of money.
And how will Clement be feeling not having won one in his first season as well? That must be
the pressure's on him. Yeah. I mean, I come back to if you look at it in the whole, in the big picture, Celtic are a good bit in front of Rangers. But I come back to the 2 games I saw last year. Both won by the odd goal. The 2-1 win when Rangers went to 10 men at Parkhead in the league and the cup final. I thought Rangers were unlucky in the cup final. I thought maybe had the best chances, most of the ball. But football is the maddest game. The minute you try and attach logic to a game of football, you end up scratching your head at the end of 90 minutes.
Right, where will this one be won and lost? And let's end with a prediction.
One who scores the most goals.
A prediction from each of you then.
Well, what do you expect me to say?
I
think Rangers can go there and play a brand of football that that can win the game. I think the manager they've got is cute enough. When I say cute enough, he's a quick learner, and he'll have looked at these games and he'll have worked out what he needs to do. It's not what he can try and get the message across, what his team have to do to win, because the guys on the pitch that win it for you or lose it for you. So he'll be preparing them in a way that he's now got some experience of Old Firm games, which is important. But of course, Brendan has a lot more experience in that department, and right now they have a better group of players than what we have. But I come back to it, it's a game of football. It's 90 minutes where daft things could happen.
Prediction from you, Martin?
Well, Rangers they definitely would have to. They would have to improve their mentality, because I
you
thought.
Think it's a mentality?
Yeah, I well, it's ability for a start, and I don't think there's enough ability in the Rangers team.
I think it's more ability than mentality.
Right. Okay.
I think if we've spoken earlier about putting petrol in your car and going to pay for the petrol, and the guy there's, we've got to win this weekend, or the other side of the coin, your next door neighbour, we've got to win this week. So I think in terms of being aware of what you need to do to win the football match, I think players on both sides will know what they have to do to win an Old Firm game. It is a really, really difficult game to win. And I think it comes down to special players on the day.
All right, I'll get back to Graham's point, which I agree with. On the day, you can get a result. If you're talking about the overall picture, Celtic are much, much stronger, because I believe that Celtic can go away and win football matches away from home. Rangers, by the time that they get back to Ibrox again, might have dropped a few more points. They might not. But this is very, very important for Rangers. A big, big game for Rangers now, because he hasn't won a game for, so...
It comes back to that again. You lose that game, the newspapers will write the league's already over. Drawing at Hearts, open day of the season, they would end up being 5 points behind Celtic after 4 games.
It's a big gap already to try and...
It's not
insurmountable, but it is psychological.
Your season was over after 1 game.
That's the madness of the Old Firm.
Yeah.
Well, listen, obviously we could do hours on that fixture, and it's been unbelievable to get the insight. Let's take a look at what else we've got coming up this weekend across the leagues. Of course, we're used to the European Thursdays tend to mean the league split across. Dundee absolutely flying, aren't they? And it's been a really tough start for St Mirren, juggling European football. So those sides will meet at Dens Park. St Johnstone, Motherwell again. Motherwell perhaps the result of the weekend. I would say that, wouldn't I? At Hearts, taking on Hearts last week. So St Johnstone and Ross County Aberdeen, a nice evening kick-off there at Pittodrie on the Saturday.
Doing well just now, obviously, aren't they?
A few teams that maybe could just be doing with a win to take that pressure off that the guys mentioned. Hearts would definitely be one of them. Sam, I think you'd agree.
Killy as well. I feel like European football is such a big headache for some
teams
of these
that are not used to it. A quick look down at the other leagues as well. I just wonder what far-flung stadium you're going to go to. You're the ultimate man. What's the most obscure fixture? Because that's the one you'll be at. But again, Ayr United absolutely flying at the start. So are Falkirk.
And Dunfermline bottom currently, playing Ayr, who are top. So that's quite a big
unbeaten
fixture there.
Nice. Oh, there we go. There's the other derby in Glasgow. Partick Thistle and Queen's Park. Might not get quite the same attention as the one we've been speaking to, but to those involved it'll be important. Let's keep going again just to make sure people know what we've got. This is your strength.
This is my bread and butter here.
This is where you come into your own. Where are you fancying?
So Kelty are having a good season against Dumbarton. Inverness, Queen of the South. Obviously, that's a huge trip for Queen of the South to be going all the way up there.
Steny have had a good start you and your GoPro camera should head
straight up there.
A quick look at League 2 as well, just to make sure, Sam, because we might want to send you to one of them.
Bonnyrigg, Stranraer. Bonnyrigg struggling. Edinburgh City have had their issues. Peterhead having a good season as well. Clyde. I mean, they were a big club, I suppose. When do
you ever have to, cup games and stuff? Do you ever have like an away game at Rangers at one of the so-called smaller grounds? We thought, wow, this is Scottish football.
Everyone with a banana skin, because see if you agree with this. Going back, if you're a Rangers manager and you're playing against a team, when I was playing, I'd come off and I'd say to Walter, who's number, like, have we got John Brown? Who's number 4 or number 5? And you keep an eye on them. So I'm playing, and this guy's been on it, but I've been playing against him. And I'd go and watch him the following week or the week after that, and he's nothing like the player.
Just raising the game sort of thing.
I worked out you're playing against 2 types of player. You're playing against either a Rangers supporter or you're playing against a Celtic supporter. The Rangers supporter would play with him because he wants to play for Rangers, and the Celtic supporter you're playing against hated you. So either way, they're fully motivated. So Rangers and Celtic don't have easy games. They don't start off as easy games. They've got to be right. the last thing you would hear, and I'm sure it still exists today, the last thing you'd hear a coach stroke manager saying to the players as they walk out the door, make sure you start right today. Make sure you start right today. And that certainly applies to Rangers and Celtic teams.
Amazing.
Yeah, thanks
really
for coming
delighted. And obviously the big game, tune in and enjoy that. But with the words of these guys ringing in your ears, I'm sure. Sam,
thank you.
Any final
it's been
messages?
great. Yeah, thanks for
Thanks,
coming
guys.
on.
It's a
It's been
pleasure.
great to chat.
Okay.
And to everyone watching, make sure you subscribe to the show so you don't miss more great guests like we've had in today.
See you next time.